Good. My name is not important right now. I like to give a couple of shout outs too. Naim Kosher Pizza in Brooklyn, New York. Dave's Pizza in Lawrence. Traditions in Lawrence. And also Florida Midman's Home Security Systems. Today I am speaking with the one and only MOSHE Storch.
And I'm speaking with, it doesn't matter who, but it's you.
Yeah. Um, where did you grow up?
I grew up mainly in Cleveland, Ohio. My first 12 years of my life. And then we moved when I was 12, we moved to Lakewood, New Jersey.
Why did where do you live now?
In Lakewood, or where do I live now?
Yeah.
Now I live in Los Angeles, California.
Why did you move from Lakewood to LA?
The short reason is my wife's from LA and we got married. We lived in Muncie for a couple of years. And at some point, we decided to move back to LA. My wife's family lives here, and it just made sense. It's a beautiful community, and we love it.
Or would you ever move back to Lakewood?
That's a very good question. Um, I'm not against moving to Lakewood. I love Lakewood. When I go to visit, I'm blown away by it. I think the people there are amazing. I think the way it's been built, the amount of convenience and the amount of Yiddishkeit, spirituality, learning, the community, people, Geschmackheit, Verbringens, it's a packed place. But my direction is Eretz Yisrael. So I'm very happy in LA, you know, for Gullus. But if
Mm,
I'm moving anywhere, I'm moving to Eretz Yisrael. That's our Mahalach.
uh, where did you go for elementary school?
So elementary school, starting from when I was a little kid in nursery, I went to the Hebrew Academy of Cleveland,
Uh,
and I was there through sixth grade. And then for seventh grade, we moved that summer to Lakewood, and I went to Tashbar in Lakewood for 2 years, for seventh and eighth grade.
where did you go for high school?
High school was a little bit of a journey. I'm sure you could imagine. Everybody has a journey of high school.
Yeah.
But I started off at a wonderful yeshiva right near the George Washington Bridge called Yeshivas Or Simcha, Yeshiva of Inglewood. At the time, it was Rabbi Strasfeld, Olav Shalom, and I was there for 2 years, and it was great. I made a lot of friends there, and I had a lot of fun. And I left there after 10th grade, and I went to a yeshiva in Rochester, Chafetz Chaim, but I was only there for a very short 11 days. And it was great though. I really loved it. It just didn't work out. And then I went to the Kollel in Lakewood. It was known as the Kollel, not like BMG. It's called the Kollel on Route 88. And I was there basically for my 11th grade year. I was learning there and I was started working part-time. And then my 12th grade year, I moved to Muncie and I went to this program called Learner Earner, where it was a mortgage company that had a learning program in the building, and we would learn in the morning, and in the afternoon we would work for them. That was my high school experience.
where where did you go for base medrash or did you go to college?
So the easy answer there is I did not go to college. That I know. If I went to base medrash, I'm not sure. So what I did, after high school age, I didn't go to Israel right away. I stayed in Muncie, and I was working. And
Can you give
then,
me can you give me 1 minute?
sure,
I am back.
welcome back.
Okay. What you're saying?
So I was saying I didn't go to college, and right after the 12th grade year, I stayed in Muncie to work a little bit. I wasn't planning on going anywhere. And then towards the end of the year, it was actually an amazing story. My brother got married in Israel a
Uh,
week before Pesach, and I wasn't planning on going to yeshiva, but I went to the wedding, and I was gonna come right back to America before Pesach and continue working. But when I got to Israel for the wedding, I remember I went to the Kotel, and I remember I just started davening, and I realized, you know what? I belong here. So I went to a yeshiva called Ner Yaakov after Pesach. I was there for a little bit, not so much time, and then I ended up transferring to the yeshiva where my brother was called Kesher. I was there for also a few months, and then I found the ultimate yeshiva, Kollel slash community, which I'm still part of, called Nakuda Tova. Nakuda Tova is a more of a Kollel or a place where Chaver come hang out, spend time together, and learn.
yeah. What did you do after base medrash?
So I stayed in Israel for about 5 years on and off. So for about those that time, I was just I was back and forth working in America for a few months a year, going back to Israel and learning, and in Nakuda Tova, and then I ultimately got a job in Israel in 2012, 2011, end of 2011. I got a job working in Israel and learning in Nakuda Tova, and that's ultimately where I was when I met my wife.
What were you doing in Israel? What was your job?
My job was I was flipping pizzas in a place called Pizza Beitit next to the Mir Yeshiva.
Uh,
It was a lot of fun. I was making pizza.
um, before we go on, what was the long payas?
Where did I get them?
What? Yeah, why do you have long payas?
Well, is it obvious that I didn't grow up with them?
I don't know.
So I did not grow up with long payas. I grew up, I had little payas behind my ears. And then when
Oh,
I was like in sixth grade, my father told me I could, if I want, I could put them in front of my ears. And and I did that. And then throughout the years, I guess my bis medrash years, so to speak, when I started spending time at Nakuda Tova. Nakuda Tova is a Breslov kollel and Chassidish.
uh,
And I connected a lot. My older brother was connected to Breslov, and I felt connected, and I felt that I wanted to have payas. I wanted to, for me, one of the biggest things of payas was I wanted to I wanted to wear my Judaism on my external. I wanted people to see that I'm very proud to be Jewish, and if there's anything more I could do to look more Jewish, as opposed to the opposite, you know, at many times in my life, I was always trying to look as least Jewish as possible. And then when I was inspired and
yeah.
connecting to Hashem in that deeper way, and really feeling like this is where I belong, and being happy and proud to be a Jew, that's when I guess I felt that Payas is just more Jewish. It's just more. So I went with it.
Uh, um, at what age did you start singing?
I'm pretty sure as long as I can remember, I loved singing. Um, when I was maybe like my first memory of like talking about it or thinking about being a singer. I was probably like 7 or 8 years old. I remember talking to my brother, and I mentioned I want to be a singer. Um, and but I don't know if it was just like I never really thought it would happen or not happen. I didn't really think about it since then. Um, but I remember I just loved music. I loved singing. And I had some solos in the choir as a kid in the Hebrew Academy. When we moved to Lakewood in seventh grade, I remember trying out for a choir in Lakewood, and I remember not getting accepted, which was I
Bad.
remember yeah, I don't know if I felt bad even, but like I remember I applied for the choir, which means that I must have been interested in singing. That's just how I'm thinking about this. And then even throughout high school, I actually stayed away from music. I remember I thought about learning how to play instruments during high school, but I did not like in Inglewood, I remember there was a music room and I would always pass by and I thought to myself, I'm like, all the guys playing music, they're like playing music and not learning. And I want to just be learning. So I
Uh,
remember I decided not to play an instrument and it ended up, you know, I stopped learning. I probably should have just played music and shouldn't have been so makbid, right? And then
yeah.
later on, when I was around 19 or 20 in Israel, that's really when a good friend of mine, Shragi Russell, I think taught me some of my first chords on a porch overlooking King George Street in Israel. And I remember the song was Shir Lamalot by Yosef Karduner. And
Oh,
then actually funny, my sister Miriam taught me a little guitar around that age. She knew a little bit more. And then my mother taught me some basic stuff. My mother's a big musician, so she was able to teach me some stuff. And from there, I just started playing and singing, and eventually it just happened.
oh. Um, how many albums do you have out now?
So I don't have any of my own actual albums. I have a lot of singles that I've put out over the last 8 years or so.
Oh,
Um, 2 years ago, I was featured on an album called Happy Clappy by Thank You Hashem organization, the Thank You Hashem Nation. I am the
yeah.
lead singer on the album, so technically it's like my album. Um, but it was a project by Thank You Hashem, which I'm super grateful for. It's enhanced my life so much, and it's really, really great.
Um, what is your favorite song of all your singles?
That's a good question. Um, can I give you two?
Yeah.
So of my singles, there's two songs that I wrote that are very different than each other. One of them is called Oh Hashem, which is an English song about talking to Hashem.
Uh,
And it's something that I wrote it, in the woods doing Hesperonychus, talking to Hashem. And I was having a challenge that day, and the words weren't coming out. I wanted to talk to Hashem, but I couldn't find the words to talk to Hashem. So I wrote a song called Oh Hashem, I want to talk to you. And till today, I see like I sing it with my kids every night. I put them to sleep, and it's what we sing. We sing, Oh Hashem, I want to talk to you. And recently, I got to play at a concert for a camp in LA called Camp Hillel. And the person running the camp by the name of JJ Duchman, who's an amazing person, he had the whole camp learn this song before I got there. And when I came, they were all singing it together, and it was really, I wanted to cry. It's very beautiful and very meaningful. And the other song is my song called Karibon Alam. Karibon is a song that I wrote probably 7, 8 years ago, and I put it out maybe 2 years ago. And it's just very holy. It's the words Karibon. It's a Shabbos Zemer, and my hope is that one day it takes off and people could sing it at their Shabbos tables.
Uh-huh. Um, what do you do when you're not singing?
Mm. I find good people like you to spend time with. Um, when I'm not singing, I do have a whole entirely other career that if you're asking from Parnassa wise,
Yeah.
I work for a company called Peg's Family Office Services.
Uh-huh.
And we somewhat of financial planning, estate planning, tax planning, life insurance, things like that.
Basically, I think did you make a video with them?
I never made a video with them. No, no.
Um, acapella version.
Acapella version of what?
Um,
Oh,
and,
Elio
and
Navi?
yeah,
You're good. Wow. You've done research, have you? So Elio Navi is an acapella song that I did, and in the video, there's a scene where it starts off where I'm working in an office that looks not like a music business, right? It looks more like a financial type of place. And
yeah,
I get fired from my job. So that was actually the first that happened. That place was called Pacific Advisors. When I first started in this line of business, that was where I went to get my feet wet in the business and start my training. And that's where we filmed that video. Yeah, it's
yeah.
good. You're on it.
Um, I also like Svira Saloma.
Oh, beautiful. Yes. Well, now it's the 3 weeks, so it's you're bringing up the acapella songs. I
Yeah,
Baruch Hashem, I was zuchet to do a bunch of acapella songs, and yes, Sphere Sommer is, you know, you, if I could tell you 100 favorites, it would definitely be the top five. But I can't. Yeah, it's a great song.
yeah. All your songs are great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
How,
Maybe I'll
how,
make some more.
how did you come up with the idea of happy clappy?
Oh, the idea of Happy Clappy. I'm trying to think who came up with the idea first, but the song, I did not write the song. The song was written by the Bloomstein brothers from Thank You Hashem.
Oh,
And as all the songs on that album are written by them, um, except for Geschmack to be a Yid, which we did a remix on that album,
oh.
which is an old song that Chabad used to sing the tune to Yifrach B'Yam of Tzaddik. And even before that,
That's
they say,
what I really, that's how I wa- wanted to interview you because I like being a yid.
that's so beautiful. That is so beautiful. And there's a lot to like about being a Yid, especially when you're a Yid, because a Yid
Yeah,
knows that the Yid is a Yid, and the Yid
yeah,
feels the neshama, right? And a piece of Hashem inside, and it's geschmack to be a Yid because you're a Yid, and a Yid knows that. It's so simple. But that
yeah,
album, so it's funny because I originally put out Geschmack to be Yid myself as a single. So that's definitely also one of my favorite singles, but I didn't compose it, so I didn't put that on my favorite list. Um, the other ones I composed, but Geschmack to be Yid, I think I'm the first one to ever release it. And as a single, I did it with the DRS Boys Senior Boys Choir, and that song, took off. And then I wanted to have a remix out there, so we did it. I proposed it to the Bloomstein brothers, and we put it on the Happy Clappy album. And there's one other song on the album called Yismach Moshe, where the Yismach Moshe was a big tzaddik, or Moshe Teitelbaum.
yeah,
He lived a couple hundred years ago, and I am a great, 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 great grandson of his. And also the Bloomsteins are great, 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 great grandsons of his. I think the same amount of greats. So
yeah,
we're like seventh cousins. And
yeah,
so we wrote that song together. other besides for those songs, I believe they wrote all the songs themselves, and I was zocheh to sing it, except for I believe in Hashem, La'ira. La'ira, that I believe in Hashem, I trust in Hashem. That part Rabbi Ephraim Waxman wrote. That's his song.
Uh, yeah. Um, at what age did you start performing live?
Um, I would say 22. I think were some of my first. Well, when you say performing live, do you mean like getting hired to do it professionally or just like
Yeah,
even, yeah,
professionally.
professionally? I think the first gigs I had professionally were I was in Israel. Um, some guys hired me to play, and then
For a wedding or a show?
I'm sorry,
For a wedding or for a show?
more like a private kumsitz in somebody's
Oh,
apartment, and then I remember my first. I think it was my first gig ever in America. I think I was engaged already. So I must have been 23 or 24. And it was for a good friend of mine, Yitzchak Weiss, who's a caterer. He had a caterer called Nesher Caterers, lives in Lakewood. And he hosted a Shabbat Brachas in his house. And he hired me. And I remember I was just back from Israel, probably. I didn't even have a car. I remember my father took me to the gig. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
uh, who did you get inspired by to start singing?
Um, Whew, that's a great question. I grew up in a family of music. So it was always there. It was always the conversation. It was always, my mother wrote a lot of songs that different big singers today, Mordechai David sings songs that my mother wrote. So it's always
Oh,
been in the family. And also my great uncle was, one of the first Jewish singers in America after World War II. His name was Yom Tov Erlich, a Yiddish singer. And so it's really been in my family. As far as when I got inspired on my own, I'll tell you, when I was 16 years old, and I wasn't in high school anymore. I was learning the kollel. My
yeah.
brother Eliezer Laser, who's 7 years older than me, so at the time he was 23, I guess. Maybe he was married already, living in Israel. He sent me a CD of a guy who I don't know if you've ever heard of him. His name is Shivi Keller. Shivi with a V,
No.
Shivi, Shivi Keller. He has
Mhm.
beautiful music. And I remember listening to the music. And at the time, I was a teenager and I was confused and I wasn't inspired to anything. And I heard this music. And I remember I wanted to learn how to play guitar just to play this music. And it took me a while. And then I would listen to it a lot. And then when I was like 19, 20, when I started playing, I remember I came back to America. It was in 2009. And by then I must have been 21 already. I met or maybe a little earlier, maybe 2008, I met a really good friend of mine, Tzvi Levin, who's from the Pumpadisa band. And we got
You
together
know
on
them, you know them personally?
yeah, yeah. So Tzvi Levin's one of my oldest adult friends since we're 19, 20.
After this, let's talk
Okay.
private.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Tzvi Levin, he and I went to a dead end street in Muncie and we sat there and we played all the Shivy songs that I've been listening to for a bunch of years. And I was very inspired. I really enjoyed it, and it helped me to continue. And from there, that's really where I got into Kalbach. And but Svi was really a big part of that, like beginning of getting inspired. And we used to do a lot of playing music together, and I would watch him play. He was an amazing musician, and I learned a lot
Wow.
from him. And that really inspired me in ways. At that time, I'd never thought I'd be a singer, but somehow it inspired me to get to where I am.
Yeah. Are you coming out with a new song or a album? Are you coming out with a new song or a album?
So right now, I only have one thing that's actually in the works. It's a new song. and it's called Hodu to Hashem, and it's been done with DJ Fabrang, Izzy Dream, who's made the music, and there's another fellow singing it with me who's really been a big force behind it, of the idea, the inspiration of the song, the lyrics. His name is Mayar. He's a local Yid in LA who's working hard on bringing Mashiach. He's not a singer. He's just a father, a businessman who got
Uh,
inspired to get involved, and he called me with the project. We've been working on it for a while, and hopefully we'll be able to release it after Shabbos Nachama.
ah, okay.
As,
Um,
as far as albums, I don't have anything that I'm working on that I started, but I have a bunch of ideas that I putting forth, and we'll see how they go.
do you have any funny stories that happened to you by a show or a wedding?
The answer is yes, for sure. Could I think of one? So I'll tell you, by the way, you asked if it happened at a show or a wedding. I only started doing weddings this year. I never, I
Oh,
never
that's,
wanted, I never wanted to do weddings because weddings, you need to know all the new music and it's a lot longer and it's a lot of time. And so I was always like, I want to do the kumsitz and the private stuff. It's easier. And then I realized recently that, um, I mean, what happened was I did a wedding. Somebody hired me for a wedding, even though I didn't want to do weddings. It was
yeah.
a person who I had a connection with, and they wanted me to play the wedding. So I played the wedding, and I had such a good time. I loved it. So then I started doing a few more. So I did a bunch this year, and now I'm trying to put myself out there as a wedding singer. Um, as far as funny stories by events, um, I think this was a funny one. You might find funny. I got hired by a company to perform for a conference. A
Yeah.
non-Jewish company hired me to perform at a conference because they have Jewish people that will be at the conference.
Oh,
But they also have mostly non-Jewish people. So they had music for the non-Jewish people there. Then they had
yeah.
separate music in a separate room with kosher food for the
Well,
Jewish people.
good.
And it was in the Dominican Republic. And the company didn't I wanted to go there, but they wanted me to go. They wanted to hire me. I sing and play guitar. But part of my thing is that I don't go myself to sing and play guitar at such an event. I need a band or I need a choir. And they didn't want to give me a budget to fly in like a band and a choir from New York. So what we did was we hired a local non-Jewish band and choir of local Dominican people. And I went a few days earlier and with my family. It was beautiful. We actually, my wife and I just had our first baby. Our daughter was, yeah,
Mazel.
then, not now, then. This was
Oh,
yeah, now she's turning 6. But
oh,
still, I take thank you for the mazel tov. We'll take the mazel tov. And
uh,
she was 7 weeks old when we flew there. We had to get her vaccines early so we could get there. And
oh,
I trained 5 or maybe 6 non-Jewish guys that barely
yeah,
spoke English. I trained them how to sing Jewish songs. I taught them Hebrew songs. I taught them about 20 or 25 different songs that they sang in Hebrew. And it happened to be very funny. It was just, especially the guests, the Hasidim, the guests that were there, for
yeah.
them it was very funny to have these non-Jewish performers singing, in Hebrew, singing Jewish songs.
There are a lot of non-Jewish people who sing Jewish songs.
Yeah. I'll send you a video later. Maybe you'll tell me if you think it's funny or not. But if you need me to
Okay,
come up with a funnier story, I could rack my brain. Um, there was once a guy who hired me for to play in his sukkah, and
okay.
he didn't call me directly. Somebody else called on his behalf, and the guy called and he said, "I want you to go with a keyboard player and a big sound system and a percussion player and a saxophone player and a violin player, a whole band. There was like five of us. And I don't know, I don't remember the price. Let's say it was $5,000, right?
Yeah.
And we all get there, we knock on the door at the same time. There's, five, six people showing up. The guy opens the door, he's like, he sees me, he says, "Oh, Maishi, come in." He's like, "Wait, who are all these other people?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? This is the band." He's like, "A band? I don't want a band."
He
The guy,
wanted he wanted one guy play.
not only that, he told me that his son was making a siyum and the Rosh Hashiva was there, and it would look very bad if there's like a whole band. He's like, "We just want one guy, come with the guitar." So I convinced him to let me bring in at least the guy to play the djembe, the percussion.
Uh,
And I don't even know if he let me bring in the speakers. Like, I think I had to sing without a mic. And I said, "What do I do about all these other guys? They were hired. They just came." He gave me the $5,000 cash and he said, "Pay them and tell them to leave."
wow, they must been very happy.
They were
Get
very
paid,
happy.
go home.
They got paid and go home. That was a funny story. Another one other funny story I'll tell you. A guy called me he called me. I lived in California and he called me to hire me to play in Palm Beach. Palm Beach is in Florida.
Yeah, Palm Beach, Florida.
And it was for 4 days. And it was like every night it was going to be like another performance.
Uh,
And it was actually also with a bunch of other musicians. Yehuda Green was there one night. A lot of other people were there. And a few days before the event, the guy tells me I made a mistake. It's not in Palm Beach, Florida. It's in Palm Springs, California.
you, you went all the way to Florida to go back to LA.
No, 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 no. I didn't go. It was a few days before. It was a few days before. So I got
Oh,
lucky. But the whole time I was booked over there. And I remember I had a flight booked. I even had a rental car um over there. I had a bunch of stuff and then it ended up working. It was great. It was a lot of fun. But it was a funny Palm Beach, Palm Springs. People get things confused sometimes.
uh,
Yeah.
do you have any inspiration or inspiring words for the road?
Of course. Hashem loves you. That's number one. Hashem believes in you. That's number two. And Hashem is in everything that happens to you. So if there's one message right now I could give to the world, it would be no matter what comes your way, no matter what happens, Hashem is inside that challenge. He's inside that struggle. And he's hiding himself in there, waiting for you to realize that he's there. And as soon as you realize that he's there in that challenge, in that struggle, you will realize that you'll be becoming so close with him and you'll have such strength and power to be happy even in those dark times. Because really, Rabbi Nachman says in Likutei Moharan, Siman Kuf Tesvav 115, he says, Be'emes ain't shum miniya ba'olam klal. The truth is, there's no such thing as miniyas, no such thing as a setback, as a challenge, because Hashem is really in every single thing. That's my main message to the world. And if it's
Mm,
hard for people to believe this, then I give them a little bit of a challenge to test Hashem. If you see something dark, try to find something good inside it. And if you, by seeing something good inside it, if you could see that that still doesn't make you feel good and still doesn't give you any knowledge that Hashem is inside it, then okay. But at least try.
okay. Thank you for letting me interview you. Let's talk after.
Amazing. All right, Sadik. Shkoyach. Thank you, Hashem, and thank you.